Hi everyone. I've been working on Inzektor FTKs for a pretty long while now, and this deck I'm showing you today is pretty much the pinnacle of consistency. This deck is able to hit an FTK 99.9% of the time. Seriously. You draw this deck 1,000 times, and 999 of those draws will have an FTK in your hands. In fact, I have draw tested it 1,000 times to prove that, and exactly one hand was unable to FTK. So we're not going to do better in terms of consistency. To understand why this deck is good and how it works, we should kind of go through the parts. So there are two big combo lines. If you're looking, you can see this is Punk Inzektors. There's a combo line that uses pretty much punks until the very end, and there's a combo line that uses Inzektors and doesn't need the punks at all. Either one of these lines can FTK, and in both cases, I have the basic combo linked in the video for each one, so you can see how they work firsthand and go through everything. But even with those, I'm going to just quickly go over how each combo line works so you understand, so that we can talk about how it plays into the consistency. So let's start with the punks. With the punks, you're going to do a very basic punk combo to get to a level 8 synchro. So one way or another, you need to get one of your punk tuners and Deer Note on the field. You sync into Diablo Mantis. This allows you to send an Inzektor, which you will need later. Which one depends on your hand. And obviously, Deer Note allows you to bring back one of your level 8 punks. And because of that, Diablo Mantis can use its effect to make itself a tuner. This plus another level 8 allows you to go into Bishbalkan. So that's essentially what the punks are trying to do, is just get you to Bishbalkan. Once you get to Bishbalkan, most of this is a very familiar FTK. A lot of different decks have done this. Getting to Bishbalkan is what's a little different. And what we do after Bishbalkan is going to be a little bit different because of the Inzektors. But just in case you don't know that combo, what you do is you bring out Bishbalkan. It lets you summon as many tokens as you can to both sides of the field. Usually that'll be 4 tokens on each side. If you have a weird hand, it might only be 3. But let's assume 4 so you can learn how this works. You have Bishbalkan out. You have to bring out Link Spider and Link Karibo. They're going to point to each other. And you're going to use these two to make Geonator here, because Geonator needs 2 effect monsters. That's why you have to turn your tokens into links first. So once you have Geonator, Geonator lets you swap one monster on your side with one on the other according to where it's pointing. So that matters. Geonator needs to be able to point down and left to Bishbalkan. So you want to give your opponent Bishbalkan. When you do that, you're most of the way to your FTK. They now have the Bishbalkan. So from here, the goal is to make Machu Mech and to make sure there are enough monsters on the field that Bishbalkan has at least 8,000 attack. As long as that's the case, Machu Mech can detach a material, target the Bishbalkan, and burn for Bishbalkan's current attack, and that's your FTK. But to get there, that's the trick. So with this, we have Geonator on the field. We've already swapped, so we should have 3 tokens. And what we're going to do is we're going to make Insect Shinobi. And then, on top or below Insect Shinobi, using the link, we're going to make Abyss Actor Super Producer. And this is the tricky, interesting part of this version of a Bishbalkan FTK that makes Inzektors really good. Super Producer can destroy himself and then search for an Abyss Actor card. You don't need an Abyss Actor card to set this off. You just need him and he can destroy himself. When he destroys himself, Shinobi triggers, and then you can special summon an Inzektor from the grave, which you set up with Diablo Mantis. Now most of the time, that's enough to go off because you already had another Inzektor in your hand because you have a lot of Inzektors in the deck. But if you have a really, really lean hand, then after you do this play and you've special summoned using Shinobi effect, you're going to bring out Sprite Sprend. Sprite Sprend will allow you to send Ladybug to the grave, and then you have a full Inzektor combo ready to go after you've already swapped Bishbalkan. So then you're just trying to spam enough monsters to get to the Machu Mech, 8,000 attack here, burn, that's the game. There's also an Inzektor combo line. So let's assume you don't see any punks, no E-Telly, none of that, you just have Inzektors. You can still FTK. And the way you're going to do that is you're going to start with your normal Inzektor combo lines. You're going to make Armor Horn so that you can get to Pico Felina, and Pico Felina lets you spam a whole bunch of monsters to the board. That's still normal. From there, what you want to do is make Beatrice. And with Beatrice, you're going to send Destrudo to the grave. So once you have Destrudo, you can bring him out, and that's what's going to allow you to sync into Diabolantis. After you've done that, you still have a few more steps because you still need to make another 8-star Inzektor. Now, there's always enough to do it. As long as you have your normal Inzektor combo, you can always get there. And again, you can see how in the linked video. But once you get past this part, you get to your Diablo Mantis, and you're going to have another 8-star, and then you're going to use those to bring out Bishbalkin. Same idea. And again, remember, Geonator can only point to the first or third monster zone. So you have to make sure Bishbalkin gets into one of those two zones. After that, you're probably going to have extra monsters on the field, and so you can use Saryuja to clear some of those off. Potentially other monsters too, if that's what you need to do. And once you do that, you're going to do Bishbalkin tokens. You're still going to do the Geonator swap. It's the same idea. Once you've swapped, you've already been Inzektor comboing, so you definitely have the Inzektors in the grave that you need. So you can always just do the Shinobi Abyss Actor combo, and then finish up with Inzektors to get to Machu Mech, and then you're done. So because you guaranteed have these, you know that once you get to Bishbalkin, you have enough summons and the ability left to finish the FTK. So now that you know how the two different styles of FTKs work, and by all means, there are a lot of hybrid things where you can be doing Inzektor combos and just throwing E-Telly in and skip the whole Beatrice line. There are lots and lots of hybrid combos. But when you see how the two main combos work, you can see how this deck is so consistent. Because with the punks, if you have any punk starter, then you pretty much have your FTK with a bit of a caveat. You need any punk starter, and then any of the Inzektors in your hand except for Giga Weevil. So any of these in your hand plus a punk starter is an FTK. Any punk plus Foolish Burial is an FTK. Any version of Inzektors that can get to Dragonfly Ladybug is an FTK. So Dragonfly Ladybug, Centipede Ladybug, Zektrike Ladybug, all those go off. There are different versions with Hornet that go off. There are tons and tons of ways to get that to go off. But the big thing is, if you have the punks and you don't have any Inzektors, then as long as you have one extra special summon, which you basically always will because none of these cards are in your hand, then you can still go off there too. What that comes out to is 3 Foxy Tunes, all go off. 3 Xiamins, all go off. 3 Ogres, all go off. E-Telly by itself, no matter what else is in your hand, is always an FTK. You have to use Jam Session, but you can. That's a whole different combo that I'll link up later. But E-Telly at all is an FTK. So the vast majority of hands that you are capable of drawing are already going to FTK. But then we also have 3 Small Worlds, which allows us to clean things up. Because with Small World, any of your Inzektors can go through Ogre and become Foxy Tune. So if you have one Inzektor in a Small World, you still have an FTK because you get to Foxy Tune and you get to go off that way. So there are a vanishingly low number of possible draws are not capable of FTKs. And that's why this does what I said earlier. This is why this is able to go off 99.9% of the time. And again, I draw tested it. 1,000 draws, and it was the 738th draw that didn't work. Every single other draw was able to FTK. That means that this is as consistent as a deck can get. You're not worried about bricking. You're not worried about it. You know, you can win multiple LCSs in a row without getting to 1,000 draws. So if this is it, if this is basically 100% consistent, then have we solved Yu-Gi-Oh? Do we win? Do Inzektors win forever and do everything? Well, no. And if you've ever played Inzektors, you already know why. This deck will open the ability to FTK all the time, but this particular setup is quite vulnerable to hand traps and any disruption of any kind. If you look at this, if your opponent puts up a good board, how are you going to break it? It's not in here. So why would we go through this? Why would we worry about a deck that's really consistent but can't actually win? There are a couple of reasons. First of all, this deck will not always lose. I've been playing a variant of it in Master Duel, and I have about a 75% win rate, which is pretty good. But as you get into more and more competitive Yu-Gi-Oh, people are going to have the ability to shut it down. The real point of making this deck is the deck building exercise. You know, we have a concept. We want to play Inzektors. We realize that one avenue of playing Inzektors is an FTK, and so then we push the deck. We try to see how consistent the deck can possibly be so that we don't have to worry about bricks when we get here to 99.9%. And keep in mind, with this deck list, these last 3 cards, completely interchangeable. They can be whatever you want. They're not necessary to the combo. You only need up to here to get to the combo. And you need these 14 extra deck monsters to have this level of consistency. So that leaves one flex spot. But realistically, we don't need to be 99.9% consistent. If we were just 99% consistent, we'd still have a really strong deck, and we'd be FTKing a lot, and then maybe we could free up some spots for a little more back and forth, to overcome disruption, to break boards, to do that kind of stuff. And more than that, we could probably drop all the way down to about 90% consistency, because Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a best 2 out of 3 format. And once we do that, we have a ton of extra room in the deck for all the different things we need to overcome what our opponent is trying to do. And yet we're still going to, 9 out of 10 draws, have the ability to FTK, plus be able to duel harder while we're on it. So this deck is showing you as far as we can push the consistency. From here, the next few videos I'm going to show you are going to show some different combos we can do and some different ways to tweak this deck so that it's a little less consistent in opening hands, but much, much stronger and able to win a whole lot more. And what you'll see is there are basically 2 avenues we can take. We can trim down some of the consistency cards. Spoiler alert, Small World's coming out. And then we can put in staples, things like Called By, hand traps, traditional board breakers like Dark Ruler, things like that. And then we can make it do a little harder. Or we can go the fun route, and we can put in different types of combos and extra extenders and just try to play through everything our opponent can try to do. I'm going to show you versions of both of that, but obviously I'm going to spend more time on the latter because it's less explored and it's a whole lot more fun. So stay tuned for those decks. Feel free to let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and I will see you guys next time.